Ike has booked his spot in the grand finals, and now we get to find out who is going to meet him there. It is Dr. Drjikininki versus Monsanto for semifinal number 2. And bringing you the action is going to be Noxious and Lorinda. These two players both have extensive HCT experience. Dr. Drjikininki, however, has already won DreamHack Atlanta this year. Can he win another one? He would be, I believe, the first player ever to win 2 DreamHack Grand Prix. Lorinda, is that correct?
I believe so, yeah. Orange has won 2 DreamHacks, but only one was actually a Grand Prix event. So, yeah, Dr. J looking to make history.
I don't really know how I feel about this because I want to root for both guys. I want Monsanto to get his big title. I want Dr. J to get something of a first in Hearthstone history. Monsanto, though, I guess I'm gonna, generally speaking, point to the fact that he's got a really unique warrior deck, and as a result, I sort of have to side with him a little bit here. It's taking everybody off guard.
Monsanto is playing out of his mind right now. His warrior play is so crisp. You can tell he has an incredible amount of experience with this deck, and it was a great meta read. He is beating up on Jade Druids with a control warrior, something that we didn't think could be done, but with Skulking Geist and N'Zoth, anything is possible. He's making magic happen. Can he make it happen against a reigning DreamHack champion? It's very possible. And for Monsanto, this would be a really huge win. It would be his first Grand Prix major victory, whereas Drjikininki has the championship title for America's Winter this year. He has the DreamHack title as well, but he just joined a new team. He's on Space Station Gaming, and now that he does have some representation, another win for him would be just that much better.
Yeah, always nice to see a new team doing well as well, so getting a good start there from Dr. J. I would kind of like to see a Control Warrior versus Control Warlock Game 5 in the final. But
I don't know how that would go.
That's going to be insane. Like, the meta has just been blown apart this weekend. We've seen so many different decks. But on the other side, Dr. J, another win. It would just be so absolutely insane for him. Plus, you're keeping him off the casting desk.
You're worried about he's coming for your job, Lorinda. He was casting Tespa just a couple of weeks ago. He's a very talented guy, but Monsanto as well. We've got our picks and bans ready, so let's see what each of these players has brought to the table. There's Dr. J. He's coming for some wins. He's coming for Lorinda's job, and he's coming with Druid, Rogue, Warlock, and the Priest banned away. Monsanto will have the Warrior, the Priest, and the Druid. The Rogue will be banned. The Rogue ban from Dr. J. I like it. We just saw Ike 3-0 Rosty with Rogue. It was a blistering fast set, something like 40 minutes, I believe. That Rogue deck, when it gets going, just cannot be stopped.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of 3-0s with Rogue on stream, and we've heard about a lot more off stream over the last few days. Definitely it's not the revelation we knew Rogue was good, but I think it's better than people even thought.
Yeah, it is very good, but on the flip side, we were discussing this a little bit behind the scenes, but the Warrior from Monsanto has been doing extremely well against Rogues. Not everybody agrees that the matchup has, favors the Warrior, or at least not by much, but from what I've seen and what I've found playing that specific matchup repeatedly, I feel like the Warrior's much better position against it than most of the decks in the metagame, and so that explains partially why Monsanto's been okay leaving it up in every single series.
There's something else going on as well. Normally when you get to the top 4, you ask a player, how do you feel? And they say, oh, it's good, we're both good players, well, it's 50-50. Dr. J was saying, Monsanto's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, he was.
The top players don't tend to acknowledge the other top players playing even better very often. But Dr. J was just like, yeah, Monsanto, he's doing so well. He's playing so good. You
know what? Dr. J will be the first to admit that he had some weird plays yesterday. He played the last series of the day. Everybody was really fatigued. You were obviously you've been focusing so hard on Hearthstone for so many hours that you start to slip up a little bit, and he did make a couple of funky plays. So if we're strictly talking about who has been playing more consistently, it's probably Monsanto. But Dr. Drjikininki is feeling fresh. He just came back from lunch. It's earlier today. He hasn't played nearly as much as he has the last couple of days. So I don't think we're going to be seeing a similar situation to that. But I think it does give a nod to how much these guys respect each other, that Dr. J is willing to come right up to us and say, Monsanto's playing out of his mind. I'm a little scared.
Yes, none of this skill cap nonsense. Oh, we've all reached a skill cap, it'll be 50-50. No, the guy's just playing better than me. I guess you have to do.
Yeah, I think Monsanto is also one of those players that doesn't lose his cool at all. You can just tell from his attitude, generally speaking, when he plays. Sure, there might be some slip-ups that have occurred occasionally over the Hearthstone history. Yeah. Oftentimes, a lot of people point to, when he gets in high-pressure situations, sometimes he tends to choke a little bit when it comes to the very, very important games. But I don't think that his play so far in this event has not revealed any of that. So maybe he's improved a little bit on that front.
You know what happened when Sottle tried that with somebody? They won about 15 tournaments in a row straight afterwards.
Monsanto could be the next Muzzy. Well, it's time to find out. Is Dr. Drjikininki going to get his second DreamHack Grand Prix win this year? Or is Monsanto going to be meeting Ike in the finals? Dr. J versus Monsanto right now.
All right, the last semifinal coming up for the DreamHack Denver. We're close to really finishing the entire event. Monsanto is, of course, the horse that I have in this race. I really am rooting for him, but Dr. J, as we've pointed out, is no slouch. It's really going to be a difficult matchup for both of these players. And in terms of deck representation, there's nothing that really stands out as unorthodox, maybe aside from the warrior from Monsanto.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? He's brought one unorthodox deck, but the rest is reasonably standard, which is... You tend to find someone like Monsanto, I think we've seen him bring crazy entire lineups before. Now he's just down to one deck and playing the rest sound. That seems like a good balance for him. Let's see when he chooses to secure that warrior. Let's get into game number 1.
Yeah, I want to see what exactly these players are going to start with. And it is going to be the Rogue on Dr. Drjikininki's side and Monsanto on the Druid. So this is a matchup that should favor the Rogue substantially by virtue of the amount of tempo they're able to generate. But Dr. Drjikininki's deck is a little bit less, perhaps, you know, high tempo than you'd expect. But on the flip side, one of the big, you know, what he can do with that deck is really put on the heat. He's got the double Cold Blood, double Firefly version. So he's looking to get these early 1-drops extremely quickly on the board, then follow up with SI7s for tempo, board control. Zerial the Poison Mind has not been seen everywhere, but the aggressiveness, I guess, of that deck is really highlighted by the Leroy Jenkins that is present.
Yes, and also he seems to be a lot more comfortable playing a slightly lower curve. We've seen players playing the Wind Fury package, and they've all done very well with that. But Dr. J's lineup is much more about, I don't want to miss a turn. We've seen several Rogue decks when they have fallen apart, which hasn't been that often. It's because they've had a really mediocre turn 4-5.
Yeah, and we see here Dr. Drjikininki just right off the bat picking up a Firefly. So this is arguably one of the best 1-drops and 2-drops in the game. It happens to... It's kind of interesting that, because you can't play Keleseth in, you know, any other 2-drops than Keleseth in those decks. But the Firefly sort of doubles up as a 2-drop if you need one, on top of your dagger, of course. You can use it in some cases, not in this deck, but to also trigger elemental synergies, or for Rogue, which is extremely important, the combo triggers, with Vile Spine Slayer being one of the prime targets and SI7 Agent.
That all being said, looking at this hand from Monsanto, every single card in his hand has the word Jade written on it, and 2 of them ramp into those Jades. He is in such a great spot. Like, you can't be in a great spot, you've got nothing on the board, but he's looking to be in a great position going forward.
Yeah, he's going to be ramping up into the mana and the Jade simultaneously, and that only speaks to the power of the future draws, because it can almost only improve from here on out. Some dead draws could include cards like Wild Growth and whatnot. That could be a little bit clunky. And the reason why there wasn't a Jade Idol here has a lot to do with not giving the dagger necessarily value on its own.
Yeah, just making your opponent spend 2 mana for no particular reason. Right,
and maybe later on develop 2 Jades at once, where suddenly you're able to fight off against the minions with a 1-1 and a 2-2 altogether.
Yeah, Admirable was talking about that earlier in terms of making a bit of tempo in one turn. If you do 2 things at once, you can catch your opponent off a little bit and really put the pressure on they weren't expecting if they haven't kept ahead of the game. Yeah. That being said, Dr. J doesn't really have much control over how this progresses right now. His hand's sort of saying to him, you've got to play a little bit on curve here.
Yeah, but that's a very good pickup, you know, the Swashbuckler, going to allow him to refuel his hand a little bit, because sometimes all you need is a bit extra card advantage. You don't want to fall behind the resource war against a Jade. And Monsanto, you know, we spoke of the Jade Idol keep. It's going to come in handy right now. We have the Jade Blossom plus the Jade Idol together, putting more pressure than if he just opened up with a measly 1-1 followed by a measly 2-2. A lot more impact being drawn from that Jade Idol here.
So Dr. J is able to control this pretty well with these SI7s, but now he's got to think about this turn, because this Edwin has made a real mess of his, well, not mess, he's given him a really good option for his plans.
Yeah, this is an insane Edwin Van Cleef timing-wise. There can be some decent trades taken. The important part is it gets on the board and can control about 2 rounds of Jades, which lets you develop safely. All you need now, though, is picking up some of that, I want to say, precious mid-game. Cobalt Scalebane, Karen Bloodhoof, there's the Bone Mare. He's not running the Lich King version, but nonetheless, he needs to start ramping up a little bit into these mid-game pushes.
Yeah, we may see him delay the Edwin 1 turn so he can get to develop these SI7s and then Shadow Step the next turn and get a crazy turn the turn after.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Shadow Step Edwin play here. I mean, it's hard to say no.
Here it is. He's going for the big Edwin because Druid just can't cope with it with this size board.
And he chooses to go for the damage instead of the card advantage of the Swashbuckler. He could have opted to go for the Swashbuckler card advantage, but he really wanted to get the extra trading tool and the damage output.
Right, because the Druid can only deal with Edwin with maybe a swipe for 4 damage plus any other damage.
Okay,
There's another thing that we had to mention, Nox.
This is so next level. Finn is bored down the right amount of minions.
Yeah.
Well done.
MC Tech is a 3-3 for 3, and it could have been so much worse. It could be stealing 8/8 minions. Nicely worked. But yeah, also clearing up the minions is such a good deal because Druid just cannot deal with the Edwin without them. And so that Edwin's going to come in for a likely either 16 or it's going to do a lot of damage to taunt minions along the way.
Monsanto's still ramping up the Jades, though. It's going to be very hard to catch up for Dr. Drjikininki soon enough. He's got good tempo tools, but he's going to need to start setting up that kill, because the longer this goes, the less likely it is you can find that opportunity. So, the initial trades, the patches getting the 2 damage in matters in this spot. Where you close in on the kill earlier rather than later, because the longer this goes, you're getting a bit in trouble.
Yeah, he got a lot of use out of that captain as well by bouncing back that patches. Just that extra 2 damage was caused each time by the +1 from the captain, and a lot of damage in his hand though.
Decent draw there. Dr. Drjikininki picking up another 1-drop to go alongside the Addled Grizzly. This is like the ghetto Keleseth.
Just sits on the board directing operations rather than having to sneakily do it in the deck.
But look at the amount of damage it's pushing.
Yeah.
Monsanto's on 7 health. He had a very good start. Was it good enough?
I'm trying to work out if the mind control tech can do anything naughty here. I don't think it can do anything naughty enough.
I mean, there's no charge potential since you can't steal the 4/3. You have no weapon, so it will not be able to attack right away.
Stealing the 8/8 doesn't seem like it's enough, which is a completely terrifying thing to have to say.
And maybe that's what you have to go for nonetheless. I mean, the South Sea Captain denies a lot of buffs. So South Sea Captain being picked up removes a ton of damage from the board. Likewise with some of the other outcomes, but...
Looks like Monsanto is going to go for that MC Tech. He's working out his trades first to give himself the best chance of removing that Edwin.
You dying now?
Oh, don't you just love putting 5/3s into 3/1s?
I'm going to get a 5/5 out of it. It's not too bad. It grows. He's going to try to get the 2 highest damage minions left onto the board here.
Monsanto is one of those players that is so good at using the rope to his advantage, and he just doesn't panic by it at all.
And bottom right, buddy, he says, we're done. Dr. J puts the first point on the scoreboard here.
Rogue winning a game of Hearthstone. What do you make of that?
Surprise.
You were saying yesterday that the number of different Rogue builds in this event, it's not just been like, hey, here's the 29 cards plus my tech card. There's been 4 distinct versions.
Yeah, next game coming right up after this. All right, let's see whether or not Monsanto opts to go for the Warrior up in the next game. I'm not entirely sure, but the Prix doesn't strike me as the best choice necessarily. He does have the Galaka Crawler in the deck, which can help tremendously against Rogues, but it is by no means guaranteed. He does play the Lyra version, so less Auctioneer, so it's a better card against Rogue than the Auctioneer would be.
No Hydras in Dr. J's Rogue. That's often a big swing as well in favor of the Rogue. So all the little pointers are that the Priest isn't too bad. But Monsanto has played this deck and won with it so much. Why would he change his strategy now? We're going to get treated to another clinic of Control Warrior or N'Zoth Warrior, depending what you want to call this.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of both, right? At this point, people call it Dead Man's Hand Warrior. Not quite. It's running 1 copy, so it's not going infinite. It's not really the a N'Zoth Warrior in that it doesn't play.
There's no death battles to mean anything, right? So
It's just surviving. It's honestly the closest we have to the old school Control Warrior.
Yeah.
In a way, but it has a lot more game thanks to the amount of whirlwind effects from Scourgelord Garrosh. This is probably the only deck that's been able to use it to great effect. Scourgelord kind of falling flat at the Death Knight.
This time he doesn't keep the 4-3, just deciding to go for a different approach around there. So knowing all his matchups, we saw him keeping that earlier in a different matchup. Totally different things you have to do against different decks. Of course, that is why we play the game.
And now Dr. Drjikininki has the opener with the Swashbuckler patches. Might even pick up some aggressive cards. Yep, that's one of them.
That's one.
You're happy to see something like that if you're looking to close out the game ASAP.
Monsanto, will he whirlwind straight away? I don't think he will. He needs that whirlwind for so many other things. His Acolyte of Pain for one, but...
Sleep with the Fishes, you want to maximize... Like, one of the cool things is if there's a coin South Sea Captain here, then you can wipe it out with Whirlwind Sleep or any other, you know, measure of combo plays. Oh, it looks like we're just gonna be...
Yeah, Dr. J's curve is absolutely awful here, so he's trying to find something to do. Oh, that'll do. Just wants something to do next turn. That's worked out fine.
It's mostly the double Cold Blood at this point. We're just going in. He says, there wasn't a Whirlwind on my first turn, so maybe I just win with this?
Yeah, and if you don't win with it, it's still done a chunk, but you don't win with it, Dr. J. This isn't a winning play right now, at least.
Bit of a pain, but he's got follow-up now that we have the Bloodcell Cultist. I mean, follow-up, let's be real. The upside is the coin is there with a 5-drop, so he can still get on the board, and Karen is a very solid follow-up to anything he does afterwards.
And now Leroy may be useful considering what just happened with those Cold Blood, but having something to do on turn 3 is massive because you just want to protect that coin, get Karen down a turn earlier, or get the Kobold down a turn earlier. So important to protect the coin when your hand is so expensive.
Yeah, there's a bit of a worry here from Monsanto because he's looking at this like, the coin is still my opponent's hand, so he can coin out 5-drops. And coining out a 5-drop here would mean that it's got to be a Kobold's Calebane, which would be a problem. So I almost can't afford using Shield Block, Shield Slam here. I have to keep it for later. And the Execute needs to be online in some way. So if I play Blood Razor too late, then I can't use the Execute for lack of mana.
Dr. J has a lot of information here. Monsanto didn't whirlwind on turn 1, for one thing. Monsanto has now just gone face with this weapon to give himself another whirlwind effect. I think Dr. J can get the read that actually there is a sleep, but there's not much else going on. I think he can probably read his hand pretty well.
We'll see how Monsanto wants to play this one. Again, he's got the Sleep with the Fishes, but it's very demanding here. You're taking a lot of damage in the process of enabling it if you absolutely want to hit the 5-5. Alternatively, you just sort of waste your turn, but if there's a Vile Spine Slayer with a Backstab Enabler, you also get blown out.
Yeah, you've got to use your health as a resource if you're going to bring this deck to a tournament, though. You've got to be able to be the one who can suck it up, and he does. And cycles through. Doesn't have a whole lot, he's just got that one taunt. But Dr. J's got an awful turn if he can't pick up a card here.
Yeah, the important part here is that Monsanto used the shield block prior to the turn he would Shield Slam, which lets him at the very least, maybe on turn 6 if he's fortunate, run into another 5-drop, then plays Dire Horn, then has Shield Slam left over, and can just commandingly take the game. But there isn't another 5-drop here. It's just another wave of small minions, and to that he doesn't have a particularly strong answer right now.
Yeah, he's not playing into his top decked Vile Spine here, which is a bit of a surprise. I thought maybe he'd keep the second 1-2 back, just in case a giant taunt comes down. You know, there's 2 of them in the deck. Keeping back for Vile Spine is a thing. He's expecting to play Cairn, that's why it's not on his mind, but he has no activators if he does pick a Vile Spine up, and it could be really important.
Yeah, the 1-2 combined with a Mortal Strike and the Dagger, clean up something big. It's actually very useful to have the 2 1-2s on the board before Leroy. It really opens up the ability to trade into those little minions so you don't lose out too much.
And this might be that exact play you just mentioned.
Feels bad every time, but sometimes it's nice to have the bodies up, and that's gonna be the card that maybe just solidifies Dr. J's lead.
Although, Scourgelord Garrosh is here to mess around and start clearing stuff up.
Yeah, that Execute is extremely important for Monsanto if there's a Bone Mirror curve. So he knows one of these cards has been acquired from the Swashbuckler. That's also a very big piece of information. More taunts.
Positioning. We came up with this earlier with Admirable in this matchup. You've got to position this correctly if you play your Bone Mare here. make sure that your opponent has to take a chunk of damage.
Yeah, whenever you worry about Scourge Lord Garrosh, make sure that they have to at least soak heaps of damage.
And as it happens, it doesn't matter too much because they're all large anyway, the way he's going to do it. Obviously splitting all the danger because executes a heck of a card.
Yeah, but that second Bone Mare, though, that right there, that's the scare card. Monsanto doesn't know it's there. He has no way to really predict that Leroy is another Bone Mare, that the most recently drawn card was the Bone Mare. But the second copy is completely bonkers here.
Yeah, it just means Monsanto, who is running slowly low on health, isn't going to be able to use that Scourge Lord too well here. And the way the board's set up, it's just not a fun setup for that card at all. So he's got to find other ways to clear. There's only one Brawl in this deck, and he hasn't got it anyway.
Yeah, the one Brawl, I wonder what he ended up cutting for it. I'm guessing it's something like the Firefly. He added, you know...
He added for it, yeah.
For the Brawl. Firefly is useful in that it gives you Battle Rage and also some residual damage to push. It's understandable that he'd like it, but...
This just is not a fun situation, taking this damage for... You've got to do it, but very little apparent gain.
On the flip side...
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of damage coming in over the next couple of turns.
Yeah, that Leroy Shadow Step is threatening 12 damage whenever Dr. J wants to pull the trigger on it. Not quite lethal now, but it's close enough.
Don't forget the Mortal as well, so plenty of damage there.
Yeah, he's got pretty much all the damage in the world. And that is nearly closing it.
Yeah.
There's no armor gain, you have to remember that. Garrosh does not gain armor past this point. A measly dagger hit is sufficient, too early for Nazaz, so there's really no more taunts in the deck. And Mortal Strike can always bypass them no matter what. So Monsanto is pretty much on checkmate, barring an Armor Smith, had it been there.
Yeah, from his point of view, it's like, oh, I've got a taunt. What's Dr. J thinking? But he knows that other card has not been used yet, the one on the left. He knows that's a generated buy. And he'll have a good idea that it's going to hurt him.
But if there were an Armor Smith, right, this could be a bit of a problem.
Right.
So these 1/1s could actually matter quite a bit. So Monsanto probably going to try to fetch one by attacking it into the Bone Mare. Not quite.
Can't quite get there.
Not enough mana to play the Acolyte and the picked up Armor Smith, potentially.
Yeah, we may see him have to go with that play just to try and draw a card for next turn. But we can see that next turn is not a thing in Monsanto's future.
I mean, if the Cairn cannot go through, then there is no damage from hand. I mean, there's the SI, technically, that's in the deck by default. If the Cairn can't go through, or the second part of it, Monsanto is technically alive for a turn. Little does he know, the card in his opponent's hand is Mortal Strike.
Yep.
From the Swashbuckler, Dr. J using that information to get a lead, 2-0 in the semifinals. That Rogue, it sweeps.
Again, well, it's getting close to it. Yeah, it's just such a good archetype. I can't even say it's a good deck because they're all different.
They're all different, but they're all working well. This one is working, it seems, better than the others, given how far it's come. But that brings Monsanto down to one deck.
But it's Priest.
That's the Priest deck. Next game and third game coming right up.
Game 3 is on the way, and it's going to be Monsanto needing to sweep with the Priest. If you've got a sweep, Priest is a pretty good starting place.
It's a good starting place, but it's a rough one. I mean, you're up against a Druid, you're up against a Rogue, and you're up against a Warlock. Now, I'm not entirely sure how you feel about the way this is supposed to go, but the Druid's already baseline very difficult to beat. The Rogue itself also is. This deck does have game against the Rogue because of the Golakka Crawler. There is, however, no Doomsayer.
He's also got a Talon Priest, so he is able to occupy the board a little bit, and he's gone with Lyra as opposed to Gadget Sand, which again is a little bit better in this matchup.
Yeah, and we see here Monsanto finding minions to play. Dr. J finds the patches in the opening hand, no Keleseth. This might just be slow enough for the Priest to do something.
Yeah, and notice that Dr. J's Priest is banned out because this lineup here from Monsanto is not a good mirror lineup. It's got no gadgets and etc. So that means he's going for more board-centric Priest, which means he has got a lot more fight in these rogue druid matchups.
Yeah, Monsanto here finding the Roz of the Chain. Very nice card to have to keep your board healed up and yourself healed up throughout the game. I mean, the combo matters in the matchup, but it's really not where your focus is.
Yeah, you win this game because the combo finishes it after you've won. You don't win it because the combo's in your deck very often. You usually just win it by getting the board, and then you just stall out until you find the combo at that point.
Yeah, Monsanto, he's on match point, and he's finding minions. He's finding a curve. Missing the Cabal Talon Priest, of course, but barring that, things could go well. Oh, that could be a disaster card. Embrace Darkness. Delayed Mind Control, but that can add another minion for Monsanto to deal with.
Now, even though there are not many minions in the Priest deck, they all have chunky health, or many of them, the ones that aren't drawing you cards have chunky health. So they do sit around for quite a while, and when Monsanto plays the Raza, he's going to be able to keep those things at high healths. So without a Vital Spine in hand later, the second one, it would be really difficult for Dr. J, but he's going to have Shadow Step ability, and he's just going to plow through them, and it's just not going to matter.
Yeah, but Monsanto's nearing the 7 and 8 mana count, and he's got a Lyra with some cheap spells. He's got the Dragonfire Potion. No damage has been dealt to Monsanto, really, and he's got a board clear. So Monsanto, if he can just hold on and survive after the Bone Mare comes out, he can definitely make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, nothing an Anduin won't sort out right now, but Dr. J's hand is going to be doing stuff for the foreseeable future, and Monsanto's going to have to time this Dragonfire very well or start picking up some good clears.
Yeah, there's a good argument to be made here to slow down against this type of, Priest, because you know how many clears they have available to them. And speaking of clears...
Yeah, if you can pick up a Soul Priest, you have like a full house of clears.
Yeah, he's missing only the Soul Priest for the entire combo.
Just clear your board 3 times in a turn.
Yeah, I mean,
not sure why that'd be helpful, but it'd be funny.
Well, it's at least funny. There's no card really next turn that can come out and dodge the Pint-Sized Shadow Word Horror, maybe barring a huge Edwin.
Yeah, I wonder if Monsanto's just sitting here thinking... The problem is, so the temptation here is to take 5 and just like pass. But then your opponent gets wind of what you're doing and probably commits very little else and just hits you in the face again. And if you get into this game, you end up losing it because you end up having to clear anyway.
Yeah, there's an argument, again, like to be made just for jamming the removal here, where you just play it right away. And the reason is not so much that you want to extract value, because your opponent's not going to give you any. If you're just passing here, the opponent is unlikely to commit more.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. That's the line he's gone for. I can only imagine that he wants to get a little bit more than nothing out of this Lyra, and so he's willing to pass 1 turn. Now, Dr. J will commit very little here, I believe.
Well, this survives against Dragonfire Potion, right?
Yeah.
If it buffs the Vile Spine Slayer, that could be huge.
Because that would then survive the horror that is about to unfold.
And it doesn't, so Monsanto will find a 2-card clear. Dr. J, of course, thinking that the Dragon subtype of the Scalebane would protect it against Dragonfire. But unfortunately for him, Bone Mare's not going to have a target going into turn 7.
It's not, but it was still a fairly lightweight test. It wasn't a complete all-in. Look at his hand size, look at his cards. He still has decent stuff going on.
One of the crazy things is that Dr. J is counting on this Patches to be combined with Bone Mare.
Okay.
To be a 5/5 charger. Now the drawback is these two would be 5/5 minions, which die to Dragonfire Potion. So despite the fact that he's sort of ensured himself a follow-up despite an AoE, the Dragonfire can still connect.
And Monsanto has just so much control here. He's just got to weigh up how greedy he wants to be honest. Can he stick a Lyra? Now looks like a time you might want to just go for a Lyra. Maybe use that Holy Smite. You don't need that for the combo in this matchup. You just win when you run them out of stuff.
Yeah, and one of the upsides of the Lyra too is that assuming there's a Bone Mare that comes down, the minion that's big enough to kill it will run itself into the Lyra, which incidentally will make it weak enough to the Dragonfire to where you can kill it.
Right.
That's the important part, is that the Lyra baits a trade and then allows for a Dragonfire clear. assuming a Bone Mare were to come out. So if there is no Dragonfire, well, he is not going to commit to the Lyra.
Okay.
Okay, so he wants to just read it.
Now, Dr. J may read this, that there is an Anduin, but I don't think he has a choice in the matter. He has to go for it and say, okay, if you've got it, you get me. And he's held this back. Monsanto knew about the patches. He could have seen this coming, I think. He's seen a captain, so he knows the patches was there.
Yeah, he had the info about the presence of the patches in the hand. Shadow Word Death, right on time.
Right, it's Lyra time as well. I think it's Lyra time.
I'm saying yes. If you're playing Lyra in your deck and you're not using it here, when are you using the card?
And do you use a Holy Smite on the other 5/5 that you don't death, assuming nothing crazy gets picked up to mean that the Lyra will trade fair?
Interesting. That's an insane outcome!
Oh my goodness.
Right then and there, a complete dismantling of Dr. J's board.
You can hear the cries out there in the crowd as that took place. And he's even going to get a 1/1 if he wants it at the end of this turn. But I think he'll use it as an 8 mana card next turn, to be honest.
I mean, how does Lyra die against that deck?
It doesn't now.
So now I think Embrace Darkness might need to come down on the Lyra. Just try to steal it for yourself. Maybe use some toxins to generate Prix spells.
She's got the best deals anywhere.
She's good in the matchup. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, she really is. That's
So-
just emptied out so much.
You pass, you hope that your toxins can carry you with Zerial. I mean, if this Lyra is not killed by Monsanto, you can get a few spells out of it.
Yeah, 17 health still as well. And Monsanto now has a turn where he just...
Oh no!
Wow.
Unbelievable!
The unkillable Lyra just takes down the whole board and then survives to tell the tale. A little bit injured at the end of it all.
This is absolutely insane. So she is still going to be generating cards for Monsanto, but the meaning of this silence is really that it will not give the minion to the opponent. And that in itself is worth a lot.
Last turn she was Auctioneer. This turn she's more like Yogg. It's all gone insane.
Okay, that's a good card.
Yeah, that'll probably get Dr. J thinking about the bottom right-hand side of his screen.
And the Mind Blast number 2 from Lyra. She's out for blood. Oh yeah, she's not kidding. Nice bone mare you got there. I like the horses.
Yeah, and Dr. J has played this game absolutely fine, but Monsanto just drew every removal spell he could. Dr. J got rid of them all, and then Lyra says, hold my coffee.
That Lyra definitely pulled her weight. Without the silence, that Patches was a problem. Without the death that came off the draw immediately after the 5/5s came down on the board, Monsanto was in trouble.
And again, the combo just showing how it's just not that relevant in this matchup. The 0 mana healing is relevant, but you don't need Anduin in this matchup as long as you can just get your removal.
I think it's more of a war of attrition, right? In this case. That's more how the matchup works out. And you could see here, like, you could use Holy Smite as removal. It doesn't matter. You don't need combo pieces to finish off the opponent. As long as you live, you almost cannot lose. And the Divine Spirit that came from Lyra on the 8/8 prove, again, to be one of the life-saving cards.
This is where you need to be made of strong stuff and have done it before. Dr. J has done it before at Atlanta. He's won the whole thing because it's very easy to let this sort of thing... You're 2-1 up in the semi-final. You've been thinking about what you're going to do in the final.
Dr. J's just cracking up. It's like, okay, I get it. It wasn't enough that you had the 8/8. Yeah. You're even adding insult to injury here. I mean, Vilespine Slayer would be brilliant.
And that's exactly what I mean, though. He's got the attitude of, okay, this is funny. Even though it's a semi-final of a major, it's just funny. Whereas if you've not been there before, it's all serious. The end of the world. Your opponent took a game off you. Dr. J just seeing the funny side, and he's got to win one of the next 2 games.
Yeah, and so Canada will get 1 point on the scoreboard. Monsanto doing well with that Priest. Still has to go through a Druid and a Warlock.
He does, and that's going to be an issue for him, especially the Druid.
Yeah, the Druid's going to be sort of the... We've seen Priests win against it.
We have, but it's winning less and less against it. I think people have sorted out the Druid side of things. I think people learned the Priest side, and we're going to find out very soon. Game 4 coming up. Game 4 just about to start. Dr. J 1 game away from his second final of the year. Monsanto 2 games away from doing what I think we all know he's going to do at some point and getting to a major final. Nox, can he do it?
I mean, he's looking really likely. He's a huge favorite going forward here. I mean, there's the Prix that has to kill off, I want to say, at least one of its nemesis, right?
Yeah, the Druid is just difficult for Prix now, and Dr. J's keeping the ultimate infestation to make sure he gets it. This is the thing you can do when you are a favorite, is you can play safe. If you're an underdog, you have to take risks. This is just Dr. J saying, I think I win this game a lot of the time, and I only lose if I don't draw UI. I'm keeping it.
Yeah, this is one of the ways you lose as the Druid, is that if you have all the ramp and no follow-up to really smother the Priest under a mountain of Jade. So when you have the ability to ramp, you already have the Wild Growth, so that's guaranteed ramp. If you have that, then you can justify keeping Ultimate Infestation. So very often, you'll see Druids keep something like Wild Growth or Jade Blossom or both, and Ormire Keeper, and then have Ultimate Infestation to keep going.
Dr. J getting that Wild Growth. Off he goes.
The crowd's mad for the emotes.
Yeah, they're happy about that. Monsanto correctly emoting the light shall burn you and healing his opponent.
Everybody's crave for the J.
Wow. We told Kura not to say that.
Oh, but I took it.
And
Stole
ran
it.
with it.
No shame.
Okay, Kazakas, this is an alternative win condition in this matchup. If you go for +4 health on your minions and maybe make a 5/5 demon, this can sometimes just smack the Druid repeatedly around the head, and it doesn't always have an answer.
And he actually got both options together. He's got the ability to give the +4 and the demon, so he's spawning a 5/9.
Right, on
with
top
that
of maybe
card.
something else hanging around, depending exactly what happens. Anything hanging around when you've got the hero power that heals things is bad news. You can just rush it down. He has minions in hand. This is a possibility for Monsanto here.
It looks like Dr. J is going to simply try to cycle to powerful, like very powerful plays. He needs to get a 6-drop because he's going into, well, turn 6. It would be helpful to have a Jade Behemoth or an Aya Blackpaw at the very least available to him.
The interesting thing is Monsanto might read that UI as an Aya. That's a very good card in this matchup that he's kept in his opener.
It might have been played here as a coin play if it had been in the
That is
hand.
true. That is very true.
But then you have to trade away the Spellbreaker and it feels a little bit iffy.
So how greedy is Monsanto going to be? If he can set up a board of 3 minions and get them buffed by this Kazakas potion, he will probably be golden. But if he doesn't do it that way and he just goes for 1 or 2 minions, he could cause a lot of grief a lot earlier.
Yeah. At the moment, I think what's going through his mind is something along the lines of, well, I have a Pyro and a Power Word Shield and other spells, so I can definitely clean up a lot of what the Druid does.
Yep.
So that's the big...
He needs to think how
guess
many
point
minions
here.
are in his deck. He's got
Right.
his Power Word Shield. How many cards are in my deck that are minions? Maybe it's 6 or 7 from the top of my head. Maybe it's a 1 in 3 chance I draw one now and next turn. Are they cheap enough that I can play a minion and the Kazakas potion on the same turn? Maybe get an army of small attack but very high health minions.
And this is exactly what we were talking about, trying to go for the board and then buff the health of the minions. The upside too is that if the Akanai Soul Priest gets buffed in health, it sticks around. If it sticks around, your hero power becomes a control tool.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you can maybe snowball that into enough time to get to your combo and end the game in the normal way. That's slowing down the Druid a lot too.
It is, because Dr. J is having to take care of this each and every turn. He's aware that this is a way that this can take place, so he's trying to... He just isn't getting the ramp out that he wanted.
I mean, Monsanto's even got a 5/11 if he wants it. He plays the demon, buffs
Like
it
you
with
do.
Power Word Shield. I mean, that's an insanely big minion to fight off against if you're a Jade Druid spawning 2/2s. This is gonna kill all the Jades for a while to come.
All he needs now is a Lyra to turn this into a 22-22, and he is good.
Yeah, he's just got to make this a 44-44, hit face and win.
It's definitely a thing that used to happen significantly often in Silence Priest.
All right, now the ramp, of course, coming up with the Spawn and Fandral. So that means turn 10 is coming right up, or at least the 10-mana mark, highlighting the fact that the Ultimate Infestation, the card that's been sitting in Dr. J's hand for the longest time now, is likely going to be coming out next turn. So Monsanto has to prepare for that. There's not a whole lot he can do.
I mean, one of the things he's done is making this 5-11. That's a way of taking away 2 of the aspects of the infestation. The fact it usually kills a minion, the fact it makes a 5-5. Those are dealt with.
Yeah.
The 5 cards, you can't really do much about. The 5 armor, you worry about it when you get to it.
Exactly. Monsanto's still, I mean, he's not in a commanding position. Given that UI can just shift things upside down, the Jades start coming out, but the Jades are still 2/2s. So it'll take a few more cards. You know, Dr. J would have to draw something like Behemoth plus Jade Spirit, Jade Idol plus Aya. You know, some combination of Jade generators that creates 2 Jades a turn for at least the next 2 turns. It's gonna have to happen really quickly to ramp Dr. J out of the...
Yeah, the shame for Monsanto is he didn't get the required wide board with the buff, so he's now back on plan A, which is going back to the combo, whilst using your huge demon to just as a board control tool to get you to that combo. Originally, when he took the potion, he was dreaming of a wide board and just winning the game because the Druid couldn't deal with his army.
Yeah, and Monsanto also, you know, he's fighting off against a 5-5, but he's got the Shadow Word Death, so if he's just capable of holding on a little bit longer, you know, if the 2/2s die to spells, which they seem like they will, this could be his opportunity.
Nice. Northshire Cleric going to get into the party and draw some cards as well. We'll see the Loot Hoarder trade in first to give more information. Maybe he can pick up a Circle.
Circle of Healing would be absolutely incredible there for Monsanto. He gets to keep his big minion, one of the most powerful cards to have against Jade this early on.
Is someone injured?
He's got the Shadow Word Death still. You can't underestimate that.
No, Mish.
Problem really is that the 5-7, I mean, it's safe, but it isn't safe. It's almost as though you want to use Pint Size to keep your 5-7 healthy.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit awkward, but...
It's definitely an option he'll be considering. That's the thing with Priest. You have to think on your feet so much with this deck. It's not just an auto win ever. You have to work out exactly how to use these cards, because some of these cards are really pretty awful in a lot of situations.
So he's going to surrender the board,
yeah,
effectively. Monsanto now giving up on keeping this guy healthy. He'll simply opt to use the death on a bigger Jade, or, you know, maybe Kun.
Yeah, that's going to do severe amounts of work. I mean, we say that every single time, but because it comes off the UI so often.
And he's got the double Jade generator to go with it, too.
Turns out that 20... How much mana is that in a turn? I know it's 20, but it's not, because the Kun's like a 7 mana card. It's like 17 mana in one turn.
Yeah?
You get about 7 mana worth of freebie.
You get a War Golem plus a bunch of stuff. Now, if you had Fandral on the board, you'd be getting a whole lot of value.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet this tournament. I've seen it before, obviously, but it's so hard to stick a Fandral going into turn 10 because everybody is rightfully terrified of leaving it there.
So it seems like the respect will be given to the Northshire Cleric, of course, preventing a circle draw. You know, you Spirit Lash Circle with the Northshire on the board and off you go. Dr. J looking commanding here would be... It would take a lot for Monsanto to catch up.
Yeah, he hasn't got any of the 3 key cards for this matchup. There's some matchups like Rogue where you need one of them. You need to either have that cheap heal or maybe use Anduin to clear a board. In this matchup, you need them both to win the game before the Druid hits you hard. And this Druid's starting to hit hard.
Yeah, the Wild Pyro Shadow Word Death is sort of the first line of attack here. You can clear off the 2-1 and the 7-7. Then you can play Curious Glimmerroot, maybe get yourself a little bit more power from the Druid arsenal. I mean, if you find an Ultimate Infestation, maybe then you have a chance at fighting back. You get all your draw, you prepare the Shadow Reaper, clean up the Jades, but...
And hope they haven't got double Nourish in their hand.
Yeah, maybe you can catch up.
But Dr. J's hand is just about perfect for all eventualities here. If he gets cleared, he has a refill. If he gets some time, he can refill his hand. And yeah, he can just
stays
go
on the
all
board,
over the place. So.
Pushes with Mark the Lotus. I mean, this is all very standard. So Monsanto's going to, by proxy, buy himself a lot of time.
I just kind of like your idea of glimmer rooting there and looking for a Nourish or something, actually, because I think he's in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, I think the point here is that he's using the 3-6 as a sort of draw a card. Because it's slowing down the pace of the game. It has to be addressed.
Yep.
And it also allows you to kill the 7-7 with a Shadow Word Death. So in a way, the 3-6 is buying you at least 1 card draw. And then Glimmerroot can follow that up. And you also get to keep the Pyro for later.
On the other side, if you hold the 3-6 back and play 3 or 4 spells in a turn, you can heal yourself for a full reload of health. But yeah, he is buying as much turn as he can. He thought But Dr. J's just going to make mincemeat out of this Prix and say, beat me next turn.
Dragonfire Potion is almost mandatory in a spot like this one. That is not it.
No, and it's kind of difficult to get rid of this massive army.
I mean, Swipe Spirit Lash comes really close. That is the ultimate infestation.
Oh.
Yikes.
Too late, I think.
He's got the Spirit Lash. He's got the Pyro. He can clear a bit of that. Maybe get even the Pint-sized Shadow Word Horror next turn to kill
Okay.
the 4/7 and the 5/5, so...
Keep selling and buying.
I'm looking. As a Priest main, I know when it's lost, but this isn't yet there. But it's like 95% lost.
Yeah, and also he doesn't know what Dr. J's holding. Obviously, from where he's sat, it might be some fairly bad stuff, but we can see it's a whole reload of Nourishers.
Yeah, those could be spreading plague and suddenly they're dead.
Is that the collective now for Nourishers? A reload?
A reload?
I think it might be.
He could play reload. Yeah, this is a good setup for Dragonfire Potion, potentially. What it does is it sets all the minions down to the 5 health. Wait, was he looking to combine that with multiple spells to clean up the entire board?
There was something he planned to do, and he panicked it a little bit.
Interesting. Probably just keeping the root out of hero power range. I'm not sure what the mistake was, because if that's the only mistake, then it's understandable. But at the end of the day, the Glimmer root was already likely to just fall down to about anything. And that's the Jade Shuffle, and off to the races we go.
The Jade Shuffle, are they going to come back for more?
Double Spreading Plague, those are dead.
Yeah, they're
dead,
nothings.
Dead.
And Malfurion is oddly not particularly impactful in this matchup. He's good enough, but he's going to be a bit slow getting down from 24, 19, 15. That number's going down fast.
And Monsanto's alive, and he's got the Dragonfire Potion too. This could be it. I mean, I don't know, but it's awfully close.
So what he's thinking is dare I Ultimate Infestation now? I'll get 5 armor, I'll get a 5/5. And then I can Dragonfire next turn in some situations. If I do it the other way and I Dragonfire first, Dr. J's just going to put a whole load of stuff on the board, and I'm never going to UI.
The issue is that now that Spirit Lash has been used with the Pyro, there's really not much to buff up the Dragonfire beyond its current damage output.
Right.
There's Blood Mage Thalnos, and that's about it. He's used up the Akanai, so it can't be combined with Circle of Healing. I like the Ultimate Infestation nonetheless.
Yes.
It is about the only way for him to come back.
And there's a way to buff the Dragonfire.
Yeah, Thalnos is about the only way he can do it. He's got the Pint-sized Shadow Word Horror. That can also do some work, and he's at 20 health, so all is not lost yet.
Yeah, that ordering is fine. If he doesn't UI there, he never, ever gets to play it.
Okay, that's rough. But still, he's got answers.
He'll be fine.
All you got to do is believe that Lyra can carry a game like no other.
Well, that Lyra is a special Lyra. We saw that in the previous game.
I mean, to be fair, Shadow Reaper Anduin coming up at any point wipes out the Jade board, resets again. So there's maybe 1 or 2 more resets Monsanto can put together here. It's extremely close, but...
Dr. J forcing through a little bit of extra damage by playing this Malfurion this turn.
Yeah, it's also adding the Hero Powers damage clock here onto Monsanto, which matters a ton in this spot, because there's not that much healing in Monsanto's list, given that a lot of lists, including his, have cut the Greater Healing Potion.
That's an Anduin Shadow Reaper.
Yeah, we are going to need that later, but for now, we're going to try to generate some game-winning spells, maybe with a Pint-sized Horror. That's sort of the obvious line. Setting up Lyra is very meaningful. Have we seen 2 or 1 swipe?
Yes.
Okay. I love that answer.
I think we've seen 1. I don't think we've seen 2. But there's been a lot of action in this particular game, so I wouldn't swear to it. Okay, so Lyra's going to do Lyra things!
What? Lyra!
Stop! Lyra's been amazing in this match.
If Dr. J has another swipe, he can just close out the game right away.
And he's going to need to, possibly, because this healing potion is going to allow some stabilization for Monsanto.
Is that the game? Did Dr. J pick up he's not moving. I'm guessing that's not it.
It's not it, but it's pretty decent.
That's an understatement, but still. Lyra lives.
Lyra lives again. This Lyra's insane.
She's won a game already.
She took on an army of 5/5s and beat them single-handedly.
Dr. J just going for the Jade idol. He knows what's up. I can't let that live. That's suicide.
Yeah.
If it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. And
He had a practice session against this Lyra and it ended badly.
Man, this is... So, Monsanto's, losing that Lyra is a recognition by Dr. J of how exactly he could possibly lose. Now Dr. J can almost just focus on armoring up, generating Jades, right? You take it as slowly as possible, and you're probably going to win, because you're on 33 health. Armor up to 40, you're out of range of everything.
So Monsanto's plan here is, the first question is, when do I Anduin? Do I do it now? That means I can never kill that big Jade army, so the answer is probably no, I do not. Second question is, how do I win? How late dare I leave it?
If Monsanto picks up Mind Blast, finds the Radiant Elemental of the Drought soon enough, that's double Mind Blast with Velen on the same turn.
That's a lot of damage.
If he just gets that Raza, I mean, he's actually not that far off from doing it. That Greater Healing Potion bought him a ton of time. Was Mind Blast played?
It must have been the one out of his hand, Lyra.
He does not play Mind Blast.
Does he not have it in his deck?
I do not see Mind Blast. He is running an anti-aggro list.
Okay, I'm looking at the same list as you. There's no Mind Blast there. Okay.
This is... Well, suddenly, this just got a lot worse.
We check quite a lot of tech cards when we check through decks, but we've just come to expect that Mind Blast is in everything. It's made it a bit harder.
Okay, that's fascinating. So, Monsanto's bursty win condition is suddenly out the window. There is yet Velen in the deck, so I must wonder.
How many of these is Jay gonna go for? Does he stop there? Does he go one further? I think he stopped there.
You could shuffle the other one.
Shuffle and nourish, yeah, ready for next turn. Shuffle, ready for nourish next turn. It's time, Anduin, to do your thing that you do.
Maybe restore some faith.
Show us the thing that you do. Show us it. It's exciting.
So you can keep Thalnos alive if you'd like. Dragonfire does not leave you with much, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what he's looking at, because if he doesn't Dragonfire now, that Dragonfire is basically a dead card for not quite, but it's approaching a dead card for the rest of the game.
It's an Anduin trigger in some respect. I mean, you can combine it with Anduin later. It'll give you a refresh, so it can deal up to 9 damage.
But this looks like he is going to just do the full trade, because his 5/5 dies as well with Anduin, and this looks like he's going to just Anduin and make sure that the 3/6 gets killed. He doesn't want to, does he? He's really trying hard to resist, because he knows that the second he plays this Anduin...
There's no more healing for the rest of the game.
And more green men are on the way.
That's not going to stop at all, but he has to commit. There's really no way out of this one, I don't think. Dragonfire Potion, unfortunately, just not enough. 3 cards left. There's a Raza in there, so he's still looking to maybe complete it. How many spells can he realistically stick to as of right now?
I mean, his hand has probably got enough. But he's got to get there.
He needs Radiant Elemental and Raza. That's a tall order.
It is indeed a tall order.
Dr. J with the Eye of Black Ball here can generate another wave of minions. And now, on paper, there is simply no answer by Monsanto. The best he can do is silence off Aya. You know, he has to start by pinging the Jade that comes out, silencing off Aya, then Dragonfire, then double ping.
Yeah, he has to draw Raza as well, immediately. Like, this turn, he has to. Otherwise, he just dies quickly enough. He runs out of spells too quickly, doesn't get the pings he needs. Dr. J is going to do this thing.
Oh, God. And here we go. Ouch.
So it begins and ends all at once.
Hey, look at that. Oh, how about that 9/9 you could kill with double ping Dragonfire? Well, now we're up to 10 and 11, burying the priest under way too much power.
And he's going to buff them by 1, because why not?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, be my guest.
Do what you do.
There's the Radiant Elemental.
Nice and all, but unless you can heal to 30, you're dead. And even if you could, you're still dead.
Yeah, you're looking under your chair trying to find your Mind Blast at this point. Where did I leave it? It's around here somewhere. It's not in your deck.
I'm also looking for my Raza. I'm shaking my deck out trying to find where the card is.
He's also looking for a pretty big paycheck for coming into the semi-finals of DreamHack. He'll be fine when he recovers after this.
Just hurts because Monsanto was looking to get to that finals, but Dr. J will do it. Once again, he ends up in the finals of a DreamHack Grand Prix.
Twice in 1 year, twice in the last 3 events. NA hasn't even had that many DreamHacks in previous years, but in 2017, Dr. J is making them his own.
Dr. J has had one of the best Hearthstone years of anybody.
Right.
I mean, this is insane. He started off the year by winning the America's HCT Winter Championship, and now he's not in the finals of one DreamHack. He's already won a DreamHack, and he's in the finals for a second. That kind of consistency is something that I feel like in Hearthstone we underestimate so very much. But you can't just fake results like this. It's not possible. Dr. J's going to the finals.
Like, we were saying this at the start of the tournament. Like, you win one tournament these days. There's a lot of tournaments. Everyone goes, well, this new guy, this Dr. J, who's he? He won a tournament. He speaks good. We like him. And then you forget about him. Then he comes up at Atlanta. Oh, no, I'm going to win another tournament. And you're going to listen to me. Now he's in another big final. Yeah, I think it's time we listen to this guy.
I think it's about time we do. And Dr. J moving on to the finals means that we have our final 2. It is going to be Gamer Sensei Ike taking on Space Station Gaming Dr. Drjikininki. We are going to give Dr. J about 20 minutes just to scope out Ike's decks, prepare for this finals, make sure that he has adequate time to rest and recover before he goes into another massive series. But that means we've got 1 series left to go. It's the finals coming up right after this.